The truth of the matter is that in an ideal world, I would be in a far greater position financially, physically, and mentally. But that's assuming that everything went perfectly. And there's a quote that was on the wall of one of my former high school teachers, and that's a quote by Vince Lombardi. And the quote says, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." Well, to be quite frank with you all, I haven't exactly caught either perfection or excellence. But I promise you that I'm working on it. I'm diligent and committed in the pursuit of my goals, and I'm quite confident that it's within my power to transform myself and put myself back on a positive trajectory in life. But before we get there, let me draw your attention to where I could be had things gone perfectly. My goal is to become a lawyer. I'm 28 years old. I am not a lawyer right now. I'm not a licensed attorney. I'm not even in law school. I don't even have my bachelor's degree yet. If things went perfectly, I could have had all of these things 3 years ago. I could be a practicing attorney at age 25. I could be in my third year of practicing the law. Since my goal is to be a Social Security disability lawyer, I think often of the many people I could have helped attain Social Security benefits and help alleviate some of the stressors of their lives. But I know it's not a healthy way of thinking. I know beating up on myself is not a healthy way of thinking. And it's something that so many of us do very often. It's something that all of us do to some extent. What if I had done this right? What if I had been more successful in this area? What if I hadn't made this mistake or that mistake? What if I didn't have this condition or this illness? There's all these questions that we posit. But that's not helpful. It's not beneficial to be hard on ourselves. And that leads me to where I could be physically. If I didn't become so depressed that I began overeating, I could be in great physical shape right now. My junior year of high school going into it, I was 165 pounds, which for somebody of my BMI, I'm not a particularly tall guy. I'm like 5'7". That's a healthy body weight. It was a healthy body weight for me. And I could be bulked up and in incredible shape and have a super hot girlfriend, and who knows? I could be a model. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but with my curls, maybe. Well, I don't know. I don't want to downplay my potential here. But I'm 28 now is the point. And I'm none of those things. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in physical peak shape. And it's because things didn't go perfectly. I had a 6-month long manic episode my junior year of university, and that was the most significant part of my life because that 6-month long manic episode, I lost my sanity during it. And it presented a myriad of consequences, which I continue to feel the impacts of today. But I've been able to gradually recapture elements of my life which I had lost that episode. I was diagnosed with bipolar type 1 with psychotic features during that episode. And I lost my education. I got expelled by my fraternity. I lost relationships. I even got arrested at one point. But since then, things have changed. I got reinstated to my fraternity because of the mitigating factor of mental illness. The charges in my criminal case were dismissed because of the mitigating factor of mental illness. I was able to get into a new university because of the mitigating factor of my mental illness. And so time after time, I've been able to recapture elements of my life, and it sort of felt like a vindication. But even with that, I'll never lose this feeling that I'm just not who I thought I'd be by now. I could be so much better right now. I could be in such a greater position. So how do I shift that? What's a more healthy line of thinking for me to employ? Well, first off is recognizing that I'm not alone in my struggles. There's other people who've encountered hardship but overcame it later on. And one thing I think back to is a story my mom told me. I don't know if anyone here is religious or has any faith, but I am personally someone who believes in God very ardently. And my mom tells me this story of when I was a baby and a Catholic father held me and said that this child will go through immense hardship early in his life, but he will later on become tremendously successful. Something to that extent. That's not verbatim, but that's the essence of what he said, according to my mom. And so I think that. Hold on, I gotta let my cat in because he's gonna meow constantly. Come on. All right, Smokey the cat is with us now. We'll see if he wants to be featured and if he shows up to the side here. Sometimes he does, but usually not. Smokey, come here. Oh no, he's going straight to bed. He's going for my bed. But I digress. Where was I? I believe that I was talking about the different reasons, the healthier line of thinking that I could employ as an alternative to the unhealthy lines of thinking of being hard on myself and attributing blame to myself. Because the truth of the matter is that I'm not alone in my struggles. Other people encounter hardship. Other people experience this mental illness of bipolar disorder, although not many. It's pretty rare. It's not exactly common. But there's people who've had bipolar disorder who've gone on to become experienced and successful doctors. There's people who've achieved high acclaim with bipolar disorder in the field of law, which is the field that I am interested in pursuing. And so there's really nothing off limits. There's other people who've been in my shoes and who've been able to move on, and not move on, but have been able to succeed despite the illness that they possess. And for some, that's not the case. Unfortunately, the reality is that 20% of people diagnosed with bipolar disorder will commit suicide at some point in their lives. That is a tragic and, to me, terrifying statistic. Because there were so many moments during my mania and my depressive episode where, let's just say, I didn't quite want to be here anymore. And I'm grateful to be past that now. I'm grateful to be in possession of my sanity once again. But I attribute a lot of that to the recognition that I'm not alone. And the second component of this is that I recognize that it's not my fault that I had this episode, because I didn't choose to have this mental illness. Maybe I had a genetic predisposition towards it. Maybe traumas from my early life contributed to it, and it's partly environmental. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. But the bottom line is that this mental illness has had a profound impact on me, and it's not something that I asked for. I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I want bipolar disorder. That'd be great. Because it's so advantageous and it just presents so many benefits. That's not the case at all. And although there are things I could have done differently during my depressive episode, as far as not overeating, it's always easier with those glasses of 2020 hindsight, of looking back and judging ourselves. But we have to look at where we were at the time, because I'm in a much healthier position now. I'm back in school. I got reinstated to my fraternity. I have preparation materials to help me on the law school admission test. I'm just in a much better position. I've restored relationships with family to a large extent. I've been able to reach out to and catch up with people from college and hear about their perspective of what they witnessed as far as my manic episode goes. And so even though I'm not who I thought I'd be by now, this is not the end. As Winston Churchill once said, this is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end, but it is an end to the beginning. Winston Churchill. Folks, I am only getting started. Love, light, and tranquility to all. Love y'all.